Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm Matt.
And this is
Matt and Matt Do Games.
First of all, this is a new channel, our first video.
We're hoping to do a lot more like this, covering things like Magic, Dungeons and Dragons, video games, pretty much anything gaming related at all. We're going to start with a sort of mini deck tech today. Matt's going to cover his commander deck and some of the changes he's made to it to improve it from its base form.
Alright, so this is just basically the Commander 2014 built from scratch deck. It's just that I've made a few changes to it. First, their commander, we're still using Duretti. I did try Feldon for a while, but I still think Duretti's just the strongest commander as of right now for this deck. And we'll start with what I have taken out of the deck, and then we'll go into the additions. So first up was Warmonger Hellkite, which I basically took out because I feel like most multiplayer commander games, making everyone attack every turn is likely going to make you the target of that attack. You're kind of making people angry with that, and they're not going to like having to risk their creatures every turn because of you, and they're likely going to attack you with this instead of anything else. So that's why that's taken out. Ingot Chewer just doesn't make a lot of sense to me in the deck, that when it enters the battlefield you have to destroy an artifact. If your opponents don't have an artifact worth blowing up, then he's just a 5 mana for 3/3 and you're losing an artifact. Beetleback Chief I just feel like is not a very strong card and is just kind of out of the flavor of this deck. I mean, I know Duretti's a goblin, but spawning goblin tokens just doesn't fit in very well in an artifact based deck. Unstable Obelisk is a decent card, but as you'll see in my additions, I have a version, another thing quite like it, that's 3 mana, 7 mana for a similar ability. That's, I think, a lot stronger. Lore Seeker Stone is another card that I think is a good card. It's just that I feel like in this deck, a lot of the time, I wasn't needing the card draw just because of Duretti's ability. And a lot of the time I was just using this as something to sacrifice, and that's a heavy price to pay just for something to get rid of. And a similar reason for Jalum Tome is I feel like it's, again, just a weaker version of Duretti's card draw he's giving you, and you might as well just sack this as well. And Cathodian and Pilgrim's Eye were both taken out because I felt as though the deck had a little bit too much mana acceleration, and I just thought these were some of the weaker ones that, his is only for a turn. This is just 1 basic land for 3 mana, just get a 1/1 body, and it's just not the best. And Bottle Gnomes, for kind of similar reasons, just didn't feel like it was quite as strong as some other things that could have been in the deck at similar costs. Alright, so now we're going to go into the cards that are being added into the deck. First one up is Anger. A haste 2/2, as long as it's in your graveyard and you control a mountain, all creatures you control have haste. Which, a lot of the time, if you draw this, you can just use Duretti's +2 ability to put it in your graveyard directly, and that just means for the rest of the game, everything you have gets haste, which is great. Hell Vault is the replacement for Unstable Obelisk. It's same price, or cost 3 mana, but for 7 you can exile a target creature you don't control, which allows you to get around a lot of indestructible and things like that, and it's just a much stronger version of that despite it not being mana as well. Crawlspace is just kind of a defensive addition. It's just makes it hard for someone with a huge force, tons of creatures to swing them all at you. When only 2 creatures can attack you, it's a lot better. And also just the flavor text is worth it just for that. Idlesteel Hellkite was already in the deck, but I felt like it was worth putting in my own shiny promo one. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Great creature. Skyship Weatherlight, another card that could be put in just for the flavor, but also just, being able to pull any number of artifacts or creatures from your library, and then every turn getting one of those into your hand for 4 mana. It lets you get combo pieces, lets you just get out whatever you have the mana for at that time, just get out a bunch of big creatures. There's not a lot of situations where it's not helpful, other than the risk of it being exiled itself. then everything you exiled with it is just gone. But it's just a risk. Similar but less risky card, but higher costed, is Ring of Three Wishes, which again can pull combo pieces. It can pull, you know, whatever creature you feel like you need at a particular time. It's just, and especially with the fact that you can cycle it in and out of your graveyard so many times with Duretti that you can get 3 wishes, sack it, bring it back, and get 3 more over and over and over. It's just a great card in this deck. Hellkite Tyrant, mythic rare from Gatecrash. Flying and trample, whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you gain control of all the artifacts they control. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 20 or more artifacts, you win the game. Never been able to use them as a win condition yet to actually win the game with the 20 artifacts, but being able to take control of artifacts in Commander, artifacts are a huge thing in any Commander deck, or at least a lot of Commander decks, is just really powerful to be able to steal from people. And if you do ever get to the 20, that's just even better. Reforge the Soul is just kind of a generally strong card to have in a mono-red Commander deck, just because card draw and just being able to get a hand when you need it can be really helpful. And that's basically the reason for including that. Mirrorworks. Whenever another non-token artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2. If you do, put a token that's a copy of that artifact onto the battlefield. So basically that just takes any of these amazing artifacts you have, or, I don't know, a Soul Ring, or Steel
Wormcoil Engine.
Or Wormcoil Engine, and then you are just paying 2 mana to get another one. And it's just, there's hardly any things that are not useful to do with that. Something I forgot to mention a moment ago was with Hellkite Tyrant, a very good combo is to have it out with Liquid Metal Coating. I mean, you can make any of your opponent's permanents become an artifact until end of turn, and then take control of it. Meaning you can take control of planeswalkers, commanders. That really doesn't matter. Anything you want, lands, anything you want of theirs, any permanent, you can take control of with this combo as long as you get through the damage. So that's just something we forgot to put in. Next up in the list here is Furnace Celebration. Just a 3-drop enchantment, and since there's a lot of sacrificing going on in this deck, you might as well get something more out of it. Every time you sacrifice something, you can pay 2 to deal 2 damage, so it's just kind of having, you know, a damage spell on a stick you can use over and over. On a similar note, Valakut the Molten Pinnacle. It enters tapped. Whenever a mountain enters the battlefield under your control, if you control at least 5 other mountains, you may have Valakut deal 3 damage to target creature or player. Just another way of getting all the lands you're playing, get a little bit more value out of each mountain after your 5th by just having some more damage output. Growth Forge Master, certainly something you can be built around in other decks, but in this, sacrificing 3 artifacts to search library for any artifact and put it on the battlefield, there's a lot of value involved there. Especially, you know, just getting rid of 3 things that when they exit the battlefield are going to have an effect that you like, and then you're getting, you know, anything else you want out. Wild Ricochet is just kind of just a good commander card. It's similar to Dual Caster Mage, except you also change the target of the original spell, and so it lets you just take any spell someone's trying to cast at you or anyone else and just completely throwing it back in their face and just being mean. This is a bit of a 2-card combo here. We're going to start with the Colossus. With how much mana you're going to be getting in a Commander game, this is an amazing card, especially getting it out cheaply somehow with Duretti or a Kalotha Forge Master or Goblin Welder or any other thing, getting this out. And then paying the 10 mana to make this thing into a 20/20 with Trample, and it'll be able to attack. It loses Defender when you Monstrosity it. Or it attacks as though it did not have Defender. So basically this is, in some ways, a win condition, doing 20 damage a turn. If you feel like being a little safer, or even if you don't have the mana to Monstrosity him, Burning Anger, while good on a lot of creatures, just being able to tap him and deal his power and damage, even if he's still just 10, that's still just tapping a creature and dealing 10 damage to someone every turn. So that's just a bit of a 2-card combo there, although this could certainly be used on other creatures as well. Another card that has a lot of good combo ability for this deck is Unwinding Clock, allowing you to untap all artifacts you control during each other player's untap step. Which right here, this is a 3-card combo. I mean, every turn. I mean, first turn you swing for 20 with him. Next turn he untaps because of this, and you tap him to do another 20 to someone over and over. Just tons of damage output. And another combo with it is sitting right here with Darksteel Forge, making all of your artifacts indestructible. And the Mineral's Disc, 4-drop, comes in tapped, but 1 in tap to destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. But if Darksteel Forge is out, your artifacts are indestructible and aren't affected by it. And if you have Unwinding Clock, you can just trigger this every turn, make sure no one else ever gets any creatures, artifacts, or enchantments out. And you just sit there with all your artifact creatures. And it's another potential win condition combo. And the last card we have here, another just staple for any red commander deck, is Insurrection. Just being able to take control of all creatures until the end of turn, being able to attack with them for 8 mana is another way to just win the game. It's a lot of time going to be at least taking out 1 player, if not 2. And it's a way, if you're playing against decks that are just building a ton of power, you're not board wiping, you're not doing anything, you're just letting them build it up with this in hand, and then you just play this, throw all their stuff back in their face, and it's just another win condition. In addition to all these, another card to be added to this deck pretty soon is going to be Mindslaver, which is it's a 6-drop artifact, and then you can pay 4 and tap it, and you control target player during their turn. And with there are combos in the deck, especially using Duretti's -10 ability, where whenever because Mindslaver, whenever you use it, you sacrifice it. But with Duretti's -10, it would come back to the battlefield at the beginning of the end step. And then if you have the mana to use it over and over, you can just sit there and Mindslaver every player. And that's basically just you winning the game, because you can just tap out all their mana and make sure that they never play another card during the game, and you can do whatever you want. And just another win condition, something to be added to the deck. And that is about it. That is the entire deck tech that we've got here for the 2014 Forged in Stone, built from scratch deck. If you have any comments on this, feel free to leave a comment on the video. If any suggestions you might have, or
think we're stupid.
If you think I'm crazy and this is a terrible way to change this deck, just let me know. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel.